Hi, everybody. Those of you who can join us live, awesome. And hello to those of you who are watching this at a later time. Either way, I hope you guys enjoy the barn project that we're about to do. And yeah, I'm excited to talk about perspective a little bit, talk about artistic license. This is a great project because we don't have to be very literal to the photograph, so it's very liberating. And we're going to go from drawing through the entire painting with you. I have everything good, looking good, sounding good.
We're not down yet.
Yeah.
So.
Okay.
But yes, looking good.
Okay, and feel free to use the chat to let us know if color or sound is wonky, which sometimes happens. I'm going to tell you a little bit about what I have around me, and hopefully you have it or on hand or not too far away. But I have my reference image, which is linked on my art page and in our group, which is The Paint Puddle is the name of the Facebook group. And this was a picture that my dad took, so that's fun. And I have a sketch of colors that I did. We can go overhead, Talbot. Preliminarily to sort of sort out what I might be using. I like to do this because then when I start painting, I can do it with confidence and I'm not experimenting in the painting with mixing colors. And so I give myself just a little key of colors that I'll be using to create the different areas of the painting. And we can talk about that in more detail as we go. I picked up a T-square because this is a gigantic T-square. Because I noticed that my initial study was extremely askew. So we're going to write that wrong. I have two containers of water. One I like to keep very clean. One is for swishing my brush in and get that initial load of color off. And then I set up a palette of the core colors. We also have the other cake palette, which I don't have out in front of me, but a lot of the colors correspond. I have posted keys that show how the colors correspond. So no matter what I'm using here, I will talk about equivalence because core has some kind of, some of the names don't totally overlap. So I will refer to color equivalence. And then my brushes and a spray bottle and a pencil and a pencil sharpener. Yeah, I think that's about all we need. I did not use any Misket or like color blocking fluids. I didn't use any special like sponges this time around. This painting happens pretty quickly, like once we get going. So we're going to start with the drawing, and I'm just going to talk through a little bit about this project, why I picked it, what I like about it, and things to start considering to warm up our brains before we actually start applying paint. I'm going to talk about perspective pretty much just enough to do this. There are, and I referred to them myself, lots of tutorials about perspective. And a few, lots of different ways to approach it. So I'm not going to go super into detail, but I am going to break down the drawing, enough for us to do what we need to do. Here is my preparation picture. Like I said, super not straight. But aside from that, I love the colors. I don't know. Oh, I did use a sponge here. But I don't think I like that. I think I'm just going to take the tree as refined as I can get it with just brush strokes. Don't necessarily want it to have leaves on it, and I think it'll look better to do it that way. The barn, as I am drawing it, is a little bit on a hill. In other words, our perspective is slightly below where we would be if we were standing in front of the barn. And how that translates is, and I like that. I think that's part of the appeal of this particular reference picture. So I imagine that I'm standing, out in front here, and my horizon line is somewhere. Let me see. I think you guys can see this. It's somewhere in these distant trees is my horizon line. And that means that's where my head is. Oops, man down. It's okay. Let's see if this shows up better. So if we put a line back here. So that's what perspective is referring to, is our literal eyes. Where are they relative to what we're drawing? When we draw, like let's say we were drawing a beach scene, which is going to be flat. There's not hills on the beach. If we're looking down the beach. So if we were to draw a beach scene and look down the beach and we were standing, everybody who's standing, no matter how distant they became, their eyes would be at the same level that ours are, unless it's a 2-year-old, but average height. So, but the people get smaller and smaller because they're farther away. And so that's that vanishing point. That's those lines that we're going to be drawing to create the barn. Part of what makes something look uphill is that if there were a person in front of this barn, their eye level would be above mine. So that's one way to think of it. And that's why we're looking up under this roof line. Like we can see up under it. And that's why this roof line shoots off, at such a steep angle. So that's part of what I want to preserve when I draw this. Now, other decisions that I'm sort of changing from the reference image are I'm putting the barn a little bit off center. It's very centered, and I think it's a little more interesting to have it's just a little bit more of a story to have it off center. And also because I'm using the hill, I get to do this fun, I exaggerated. There does seem to be a little bit of a road in the reference picture, but I kind of exaggerated that, and I like that detail. The barn actually is deteriorating metal siding on top of wooden siding. I decided to treat it as green paint that is fading. So that was a choice that I made. It just would be more labor intensive, and I also like the look. I just like the feel of this. I painted the barn door open, and I did that to give more depth. That is totally up to you. If you want to just continue the barn. If I did it with the door closed, I would probably just do more barn wood. And what else? Oh, this doesn't make any sense. It's not a part of the story. So I got rid of that. I got rid of this. And I love the tree line. And I loved, we have this distant tree line, which we're going to drop in wet, make real fuzzy. And then we have a few closer trees. And then we have our, big nearby tree. I also interpreted the sun as coming from the left. That does give me this overhang shadow. In the reference image, it is a little bit more direct from the top because the sun is still hitting this side. It might even be slightly coming from the right. But since this is very simple to do in a structure versus like an animal's face or a human face, I decided the sun was coming more from the left because I liked making the right sides of the building darker. And maybe I'll exaggerate that even a little bit more when I paint it this time. You can create a super simple sky. You can work and like make a really dynamic sky. I am going to work wet and wet, so I'm going to wet the paper down and just drop colors in, lift colors off until it looks the way I want it to look. And the barn could be any color. We're going to paint it gray, and then if you want to do the faded paint, you could do a red barn. You could do, an ochre barn. You could do a green barn. And same with the grass. I'm going with a bit of an autumn look, especially with the trees being, not having leaves on them. So, yeah, so you can, sort of just map out in your mind what your scene is about. And these are really easy changes to make, but those were some of the decisions that I made. Okay, any questions before we draw?
I see no questions, but Talbot, the color looks good.
Yeah,
Oh, good.
I might dial back the brightness initially just so the line work will show up on the paper.
I look crooked again now, but it might just be inevitable.
Mostly fine. But are you going to be drawing with pencil?
Yes.
Yeah, so I might darken the whole thing so
Okay.
that can be visible.
I will draw darker than I normally do.
Yeah.
I usually, when I'm sketching for watercolor, I keep it fairly light so that when I make a mistake, which I inevitably will, I can lift it off. So we're gonna start with our horizon line, and it is not quite halfway up. So I'm working, what did I say? 12 by 16.
By 16, I think.
Yep, 12 by 16. So I'm drawing a rough horizon line, about halfway. I'm sorry, about 5 inches from the bottom, and I'm just going to keep it. I'm going to keep it pretty flat. And like I said, I'm kind of standing down here, so we're going to be looking up at the barn a little bit. The barn they made this easy. This person who built this barn, they made this just for us painters. In my rendition, here's what you can do. Okay, so in my reference image that I printed out, this square, we're just going to make this a square of this face, is 3 inches square. And then these two sides are half of that. So it's a whole and 2 halves. It's very simple. So we can use that formula. I also am standing slightly off from the center of the barn. If I were looking straight at the barn, we would not see these sides. So we're a little low, we're a little to the right, and we're getting what's called, I think this would be considered a 2-point perspective, but I might not be using the right words. Okay, so all we need to do, though, to start is draw our square. Now, you can make this barn any size you want it. The one that I made in my drawing it's sort of about the same. Like if I just plop this down on this piece of paper, that's about what I'm going for. I might go 3.5. I might just tweak it a tiny bit bigger. It's going to make it easier for me to paint. And And really, because of the hill, the bottom of the barn rests pretty much on that horizon line, even though it's not in the distance. So I can just use this as the bottom of my barn. I might go just ever so slightly lower. So let me just go about half to a quarter of an inch below the horizon line. And then the first thing I want to do, and I'm going to use a T-square, is draw that square. And I need to ditch my coffee. I've been clutching it. So T-square is great, even though this one's huge, because I'm going to make sure that my lines are straight. Let's see, where do I want this? Let's see. If I were to just like pencil it in, I'm thinking like this. I'm going to do a quick pencil sketch so you can see how far off I am from the truth. All right, that gives me a place to start, kind of like that's the size I want it. That's the place that I want it. Okay, so let me make these lines actually vertical. So if I'm going 4 1/4, 4 inches, 7 inches, 7 1/4 would be 3, and I'm going to go another half. So I'm going 3 1/2 inch up, and I'm going to go 3 1/2 inches across. That's the other nice thing about a T-square is you're getting your right angles without a ton of measurements.
People are having a hard time seeing, but that was just your light sketch. This
Yeah.
is
Yeah.
easier to see.
Okay. Okay, good. So yeah, you can see my light sketch line
Does it look okay?
goes like
It does.
that.
You've made it really dark so that, yeah.
Yeah, that's actually good for this part. Now, I went 3 1/2. And so if I want this to truly be half that size, I need to go 1 3/4.
You're asking me a measurement question?
That doesn't seem right.
Say it again.
3 1/2 divided by 2. That doesn't look right.
3 1/2. That'd be 1 1/2.
That's not right.
1 3/4.
It's not right though. Oh, that is right. Okay. I didn't know how to measure was the problem. Is something wrong? Do I look weird?
Just on the screen.
I'm very tan.
We can see the sketch marks though, so it just doesn't look like you.
Right. Oops. Kyla, would you mind kicking the air?
Oh, sure.
All right, it looks right over here, but it didn't look right over here. But that's just because my drawing was stupid. I got this side perfect. Okay. Now, I'm going to put this on the horizon line because making a vanishing point can be tricky because it's usually off of your piece of paper. And because we're looking ever so slightly at this corner of the barn and not face on, this actually is going to angle up farther away as well. But it's so subtle. It's like, really, this is grassy knoll, and we don't totally need to worry about that. And then same here. And that's another thing I like about this idea of a hill, is I get to fudge. Like, we don't even see the bottom of this this shed structure. Where is the corner of it? It's hard to see the corner of it. I'm going to say it's right here. Yeah, so I think it's like just inside. So if I cheat a little bit, exaggerate the hill, I don't even have to worry about the bottom of the barn. It's going to do something like that. Okay. And then we can eyeball if we want to. I believe this is also half. Well, I'll just measure it. I think this distance is also about half. Yep, a little bit more. So instead of going 1 1/4 inches, I'm going to go 2 inches. I'm just going to connect these dots right now. Well, let me find the center is right here. And I'm going to draw a light or a dotted line up the center so that I know where the center of this space is. Oh, that was way off. So we can take our pencil or straight edge and just hold it at the same angle as the roof line, and then just bring it down and see if we're on track. And I need to exaggerate it just a little bit more. And then same with up here. You can even use a protractor. That's another way to fudge it without making a vanishing point and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, that one's pretty good. So the vanishing point is if all these lines were to connect, where do they go? And they're going to go to the horizon line, usually, like I said, off the piece of paper. So I'm not sure that it's even really necessary to do this, but we're going to do it. Right, let me put this. I'm lining. This is just for demonstration. I don't think you guys need this for your drawing. But I've just put my straight edge even with the edge of the paper so I know where it is. And I'm lining up this line with the ruler, and it's coming to the edge right here at 54. So when I come, this isn't going to be long enough. When I come up here to do this roof line, oh, it just reaches. And I put that end of this ruler on 54. I'm not sure if I'm just in the shot. Okay. This is that line. So everything comes off of that vanishing point. Even the bottom of the building. Let's see. We could do another line here on this side. We could do the top of this shed roof. We're going to put the ruler on our vanishing point. And that's the top of the shed roof. The bottom of the shed roof is going to be almost the same because this is a very shallow roof. So it's practically, oops, let me do that again. Let me get it where it needs to be. It's practically the same. We don't see a lot of the top of this roof And then we can do, if we want to do a second tier, like this image has this little extra roof on top of this. Then we just determine how high we want that to be. Go another 1/2 inch. Now I know this one's not going to reach. I don't think I have anything longer. And then I shoot for that point. And that's going to go like that. Oh, it looks like way different than if I would have just guessed. Now, one of the cool thing about really old barns is things are crooked. So, a little bit of leaning and tilts is a-okay. The door is about halfway down. Since I made this 3.5 inches, I'm gonna go, I'll just go 1.5 because I don't want to make it super squat. If I were imagining these doors open, they might have a little sliding door that's maybe, you know, kind of off to the sides a little bit. Maybe that one's not quite all the way open. And then this side has a little sad door that I liked drawing because I liked making the cracks in it. And I liked the hinges that it has. And then this little guy also has a door. Any questions so far? All right, I think we can lighten up a little bit.
Yeah.
And the only other thing that I want to suggest in here is maybe I made up this distant field. I like it. I think I'm going to do that again. In the reference image, those distant trees are right, you know, right up against our foreground. But I like the idea that I've got another zone of golden field back here. And then my tree line, you know, is still in the distance. So I'm just drawing that in. Let's put our little road so we know where we're going. It's definitely going to be very narrow as it reaches the door, and then I like giving it a turn because I don't know, makes a nice composition. And I'm not going to draw the tree. I'm not going to attempt to paint this tree exactly as it is. When the time comes, I'm just going to use my brush and make some branches. So to make this look like an overhang, I need to take the roof off farther out than this back corner. This roof line pretty much just attaches to the shed roof. And then I'm taking this shed roof just out farther than the corner of the building. All right, now we get to play with colors. I think set that, like we can lose that, it's gargantuan. So for the sky, I didn't want it to be like blue, so I did the phthalo green, blue, which is, you could use like an ultramarine, just regular old blue, and magenta. In place of magenta, I would use a little bit of alizarin crimson, and I added gold for warmth. So the magenta and the gold are going to create a peachy color together. And then at the bottom of the sky, just to keep it nice and light, I used cerulean because it has that distant horizon sky color naturally. And yeah, it could be stormy. It could be, you could have bright white clouds. I went for just sort of a more, somewhere in between kind of thing. So I will wet my whole sky, and I'm actually going to go ahead and wet right down to this distant field tree line, because the trees are going to be darker than the sky, so it doesn't matter that I cover the trees. Plus, if I get some airiness in the trees, I want to be able to see the sky color through it. So I'm going to use my biggest brush. Always use the biggest brush that you can. So a nice big soft brush here is great. And something with a straight edge is helpful when you're doing buildings, because I can come right up to that roof edge. I always feel like we should have music.
Then you get kicked off.
I know. I feel like I need music. I always listen to music when I paint, so. So I'm just making sure to get it nice and saturated so that when I start dropping colors in, I don't have to panic. I don't have to panic about hard lines or something. I don't even have to panic about the color not being right, because when your paper is wet, it's a lot easier to lift color.
Is it harder to make colors stay when your paper's wet?
It's a little bit harder to interpret the color because it will change as it dries so much. You can't control, like in this case, we don't want to control the lines. Like we only want to control the line of the barn. Mm-hmm. Okay, I'm just see if I can. You're not going to totally be able to see my palette, but I'm going to talk about what I'm doing. I'm going to make a clean puddle and figure out what brush I want to use. And I'm going to get that blue that I was talking about. And I want a good bit of paint and water here. I don't want to start and then be like, oh my gosh, I don't have enough. And then a little bit of magenta or alizarin crimson, either one. Just to make it like not quite so blue, a little more stormy. And then with skies, we want the darkest colors to be at the top. I mean, you might have a dark zone under a cloud, but generally it'll lighten as it goes down. And then I'm going to be a little bit irregular because I'm pretending like See, I had a dry spot over here, and it's you want to keep the bleed going. So I'm kind of leaving a little like cloud area. So I'm doing the top, I'm doing a little bit in the middle, like the bottom of the clouds, and then right away across the bottom, before it dries, I want to go ahead and get some of that cerulean. It really is just the perfect blue for the bottom. Jesus, dried fast. It's that AC is kicking.
Thirsty paper.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so you have to work fast. I like that. I think it's fun. Whoops. Now there's a cloud there. Okay. And then in a third puddle, I'm going to use those warmer color. I'm calling it gold, but it might be, you could use like yellow ochre, a little bit of cadmium yellow, and just a little bit of magenta. And it's going to look a little abrupt right now, but I'm going to blend it all in. It's leaning a little too yellow, so I'm adding more red. And then where I have the white up here, it's kind of cool looking. You totally could leave it like that. But like I said, I'm going for a softer situation. So I'm just going to blend this yellow up into that with clean water. Clean water is your blending friend. Ooh, I dig it. Now, another technique you could use would be to take some clean water, and if you just dropped that in, you're gonna create a cloud. So just to give you some options of ways to treat it.
That looks really cool.
The cool thing about skies, that's the thing, is like they can do and be anything, you know. We look at them sometimes and we're like, whoa, what's even going on there? I feel like I want a little bit of my blue in the bottom of this cloud, so I'm just going to put that in. And the drier you get, the more control. Like, I like that. I might go back over the blue in a little bit, but I like this look. While it's wet, I'm going to mix a little bit of tree color, and I'm going to use the blue, the red, like the paint puddle that I already have with the blue and a little bit more red, and then add some raw umber to it just to brown it down. But I like this purple start. You know what? This is my problem. It helps to spray your paints. It's one of my problems. So raw umber is browner and like a little yellower than burnt umber. And then I'm just going to put these little trees in here. Be irregular. Oh, this side dried already. It's always harder for me to get this side of the building being left-handed. Now, since this dried, I'm not going to panic. I'm just going to paint. I know I got trees back here too. And I'm gonna clean my brush. And with clean water, I'm just gonna pull this wet edge into the sky. Now, I like the look of dropping some burnt sienna into this and having it, and this I'm just gonna basically blur out because I don't know exactly what else is happening in here. I do know that I'm going to see the interior of the barn, you know, probably almost all the way over. There might be a little bit of light coming in. So let me get, I'm going to get some burnt sienna. That's a real easy coppery color to go to. And put a little bit of the gold in it to brighten it up. And just pop this into the tops of these trees. And I'm probably going to darken the base because that's just going to make it even more dynamic. To darken the base, I'm going to take the blue and I'm going to make a purple. I'm going to make a really dark purple. So I have a puddle that has some blue in it. And I'm just going to put more. The more paint I put, the darker it gets. See how rich that is? And then we're going to pretend like, you know, we're seeing the bottom of the woods here.
People are enjoying your sky.
Good. Thank you. We will be using that dark purple mix probably with either a little bit of natural tint in it, a little bit of, you can either put a little bit of burnt umber, something to neutralize it a little bit. That is going to be our shadow color across the whole painting. Now, this is a little dramatic. It's a little dramatic looking. If I'm worried about that, I can take a clean wet brush and just swirl some things around a little bit, pick a little bit of paint up. Although I'm pretty sure when it dries, it's going to be good because sometimes things look dramatic when they're wet or like too much. And then I change it and then I'm like, oh, now it's flat and boring. So, but that's what we want. We want things like bouncing off of each other. All right, we're going to move to the foreground. And again, we're going to work with the foreground wet. One nice thing about putting this midground in is I can do that without touching what's already wet. So I don't have to worry about that while I do this. So my big brush, clean water. This is going to be fun. I really like in the reference image, I like this just sort of, you know, neglected autumny grass that's going on. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm sort of trying to naturally vignette it by bringing some darks towards the bottom and sides. These are just some of the things that I'm thinking about. Whatever comes up to the barn, I want it to be a little bit unnatural, like uneven. I don't want to just, you know, make a nice clean line there. All right, let's make some paint puddles so that when we go into this, we have a really good, fun bit of colors. So in my notes, I wrote, what did I write? Raw umber, cad yellow, cad red, oh, barn green. Okay, so the barn green, let's make some barn green. This is a blue puddle. It did have a little bit of magenta in it, but that's okay. Barn green is ultramarine or phthalo blue, nice bright blue, and cadmium yellow. So you're nice, you know, kind of appealing barn green. Mine's a little muddy because of the magenta that's in there, but that's okay. So for the grass, I'm going to like really yellow that up a little bit. I want it to be really rich, a really rich green. And then the other thing that I want for the grass is a lot of rust colors. So a new puddle with, I'm using the gold. It's nice and bright. You could use cad yellow and yellow ochre. And then I'm using the burnt sienna, which is what we used in the trees. Like I like to try to keep the painting with the similar colors. I don't want to all of a sudden throw in an entirely different red or, you know, some rando color. So now I have some things to work with, and I'm pretty sure my paper is dry. But so at the top, I'm going to start with almost like, I'm just going to start with yellow, because here's the thing. I can always darken it. I can always go back. And I'm ignoring the road for the moment because I don't know what I want that to do yet. I did pull a little yellow just right into the barn here. Like maybe the sun is just getting in there. And everything dries lighter. So it looks pretty saturated right now. But that's good because usually it dries and I think, oh gosh, that's too light. I'm going to make this dirtier, like more like dirt, literal dirt. So I'm going to put more burnt sienna in, and then maybe some Van Dyke brown or raw umber, but any kind of brown. Just get this going a little darker. And so we have some spots like, the grass isn't growing there. That's a bummer. And especially down at the bottom, nice and dark. You can see how dry my paper is now. And then the road has a little dirt lane down the middle of it. All right, so some things are happening. Now we get the green. I just want to get this little bit wet here. Okay, now we get the green, nice and saturated. I think it needs to be even. I'm gonna put a little bit of Viridian in here, or phthalo green. You know what? I'm a big dummy. That's what I used. I used that and cadmium yellow. So if you don't have phthalo green, that is Viridian. It's very similar. There we go. Now I'm letting this touch, you know, these dirt spots, because then the watercolors will do fun things that look natural and grassy, and that's one of the things that's so fun about this medium, is really using it to its advantage in that way. And I don't know what the road is. Is it like, maybe it was a kind of gravel, so I'm gonna figure out what that color is next. But I definitely need more paint. Oh, that was it. That was a lot of paint. It was a lot of paint. This will last me through the whole barn. Okay, now I'm gonna dial it back, get a little control here, and I want to mess up this green a little bit. It's very, very green. So without cleaning that brush, I'm just gonna set it aside, get out a slightly smaller brush, and I'm gonna mix. Sorry guys, I have to get up. I had a whole bunch of paper towels ready and they were on my lap and I dropped them all.
Could have gotten them for you.
No. They're just really down by my feet. I'm going to mix like a reddish brown and like make this green a little murkier. Figuring out your pre-testing your colors is a great way to allow yourself a lot of freedom when you paint. I'm mixing Cad Red and the Burnt Sienna, and that's going to help us pop some interest into this green that I did that is like way too green. It's kind of what that first layer of browns was for, but you know, it wasn't totally enough. Or now I have to reverse it again. And these are complementary colors, so they really make the grass look alive versus if you just painted it green. And remember, I talked about this purple shadow color. I'm gonna wet my brush and put that right into a few spots. Like, I'm kind of pretending like the tree wouldn't cast a shadow this direction, but maybe this side of the hill is a little bit in shadow, and definitely this bottom corner is in shadow. Now I could glaze this after this is all dry, but I kind of like the way it falls in when it's wet. you know, we don't know if there's a tree over here that's making some shadows. And then this purple color is how I'm going to start my little road. Doesn't even really look purple anymore, but I need a bigger brush. Ooh, it looks good on camera. You got the colors all popped. It makes
Don't go too far with it.
It makes it look very vibrant. I want this to bleed because that is exactly what is happening on this property. we've got you know, grass where gravel used to be and gravel where grass used to be. So it's like my house. So that was a light wash using what I had on my palette, but I can keep, I am going to keep adding to that. Let's make more purple. Ran out. This is the ultramarine and either alizarin crimson or magenta. And then I make it a little bit knocked back with some raw umber. And then I think I'm going to put a little bit of burnt sienna into the road. It's too cold. All right, I'll mess with details in a bit, but it's a good start. I'm gonna lay the that mid-ground in, and I need to remake a golden color. This is too red at this point, so I'm just gonna move up over here, and I might take some of this, but I'm gonna add yellow ochre color. I feel like just a little bit of green in here is going to make it more, more rich. And this I do pretty simply, like I just let it be a distant hayfield. I figure it's helpful to hold the palette up to see what I'm doing. Okay.
Yes.
Okay. I can always tone this down a little bit later if I want to add another color. I think I'll drop as if there's a little like bush, you know, here and maybe over here. So I'll just use some browns for that. Let's see what happens if we just take some. That is raw umber. And let's put burnt sienna in it because it's looking a little cold. And I want this to be pretty saturated because I'm going to put a little bit of Van Dyke brown in too. Just deepen it. because I want to make an impact here. I don't want to have this washed out puddle effect. I want to have, you know, a little interesting tree basically. So the times to be, you know, more or less saturated are going to, that's going to come, you know, with practice and understanding when the paint moves in what way and how. So it's dry up here and I'm getting very crisp, you know, little tree lines, and it's wet down here. So I'm getting a lot of blur. So what I'll probably do is wait until this dries and do another layer. So maybe this is a little blurry and that's fine, but then there's going to be some darker, crisper lines on it. This is a little bit drier over here. Sometimes when I have a color that I like, I think, well, where else can I put it? You know, and I maybe put it in a few places that I wasn't necessarily thinking about. And now that this foreground is starting to dry, the lines that I put are going to be have more detail. So I can put some, like, I can actually, as I get closer, I can put some grassy shapes. If I were to do that in a dark spot, just to show you, I'll do that in a dark spot with a light color. Oh, it just popped a hole. It's okay. So if I take just pure gold, for example, some pure gold, and I put it into a shadowy spot, this is going to make a liar out of me. It should move the dark color out of the way a bit and leave the light color. But this might be a little bit too dry. Oh, it's doing it. If I take up my brush back in there. So that's kind of a fun detail to play with. You guys, I'm painting quickly as I always do because, you know, we gotta keep it doable. But you guys can have a lot of fun playing with the details of this. I'm gonna get like a nice cad yellow and my green, a little bit of my green, try to get a really nice bright green and do a few little, it's not bright so much as saturated, but that's okay. Make this whole section darker. And then let's put some straight cad red in there, because that's always exciting. I like that. gonna eliminate the road just a little bit. It's a little too what's the word? Standing out a little bit too much. So I'm just gonna take a green and get rid of. I feel like Kyla and Talbot don't have any work to do right now.
I'm just mesmerized by the painting.
Good, okay. I'm like painting and talking and sweating.
No one's asking anything.
Nobody's asking anything. It's so much different from. All right, still this is too vivid, so I'm just gonna keep toning it down. That's better. It was too, like, needed to look more like as one, all as one. All right. Phew. That was fun.
I don't want to ask you too many things and, like, interrupt your talking and thoughts.
I'm just trying to keep it lively. You can ask me anything. Okay, the way that I approached the barn is I pretty much just painted it gray, and then like this worn out wood gray, and then I imagined where it would be weathered and where maybe the paint would be more intact, just like this siding is more intact on this side. That's the way I imagined that the paint on the barn was. And then so I put the green, and then once the green, then we're going to shadow everything with our pretty shadow color. Then I do all the little detail lines, because if you painted the dark lines first, then did all this washing, it would all get blurry. So we're going to build from light to dark. We're going to start with the gray, then put the green, then the shadow, and then the really dark spots. And yeah, just like have, I'm always encouraging you guys to have fun with it, and be, this is an old barn, so try not to be too perfect. My barn gray, raw umber and blue. Okay. So here's our shadow. I'm gonna see if I can kind of scoop this. It's not really working. Okay. This is going to be the shadow land. This is going to be the green. This is where I'm going to put the gray. I don't care that there's some color here. It doesn't matter. In my notes, I wrote that I used the blue and raw umber. So let's see how that looks. It's a little green. I think it's green because I had a lot of paint on my puddle that I didn't care about. No, I think it's in my brush actually. So I'm gonna, maybe yours isn't as green, and I don't like that brush right now. Oh, let's try this one. I'm using a wide, like a 1/2 inch flat brush. To lessen the green, because mine is green, instead of eliminating all this paint that I just picked up, I'm going to add a little bit of burnt sienna. There we go. That's perfect. All my doors are going to be barn colored, or yeah, this gray wood, so I am not worried about the doors. Now, I have a dry brush, which I actually really like because it looks weathered. So if I'm missing a few spots, I'm not worried about it.
And you're painting the barn dry.
So that's what I was just saying, like, it's dry, and that gives me a lot of control, first of all, and I like it because it looks kind of weathered. If I do miss a spot, it's just looking like that's just more worn, yeah. And it is good to go vertically because that's what the boards are doing. And my color got green again because I think there's yellow on my blue paint. Irregularity is good. I mean, we don't want to like shoot off the page into the sky or anything like that, but some irregularity is good. Kyla brought berries this morning.
There wasn't even an old barn on the property that I saw.
Yeah, that place is just kind of sitting out there, you know?
Yep. So many blueberry bushes.
This looks a little dark, but these things always lighten up.
With it not being as wet, will it not lighten as much?
Right. That's probably true. I'm trying to avoid my roof because I'm keeping the roof kind of like that tinny color, so I don't want it to get real dark. I've got nice straight lines because I used a ruler. It's amazing. Yeah, there's a ton of variation in this wood. Oh, it's like pretty already. Is anyone painting?
I don't know. We have someone doing laundry. That's what I've seen. Several people drinking coffee.
Oh, yeah. I totally needed the coffee today.
Paint Pal Sue said you always make tricky things look entirely doable. That's the practice. And she is felting.
Oh, nice.
painting.
Good. Well, thank you for keeping us company.
Laurie's painting. I think she said she was in Colorado.
Which Lori?
Laurie Ward is painting.
Oh, okay.
Slowly
Nice.
but surely, she says.
So I pretty much kept it vertical so that if I do get some lines, it just looks like the barn would. Oh, there's a barn sale near here this weekend. I had a lot of fun going there last year, but I don't know if I'm going to make it this year. And then with a clean wet brush, I can go in and kind of, if I feel like something needs to be blended a little bit, or I can, just take a little more paint, get it wherever I feel like it needs it. But this is our weathered gray color that we're doing here. So I think I'll make these doors just kind of be a little bit different.
Someone else painting and someone watching to make her felting landscapes better.
Ah, yeah. Yeah, we talked about creating some depth and distance and stuff like that. I'm going to revisit this little weird tree that is bothering me that I was waiting to dry. So using my purple, the shadow purple, and then I'm going to put some brown into it.
Ooh, Deb's trying this in the alcohol inks.
Oh, I can't wait to see that. So cool. I have yet to play with those.
Mm-hmm.
All right, next is the green. Again, I want to use these nice flat brushes are great for buildings. This one happens to be thinned at the end, which is a little weird. But like this one's not. I'll try that one. So I want to make my green. Gonna use some Viridian, and then oh gosh, that's coming out so thick. And then I want to kind of make it a little less pure. So put some cad yellow and maybe some burnt sienna. You could try red, but red is like because it's the complement, it'll really knock it down. Burnt sienna is a little bit in the middle. Oh, that looks nice. That looks like a color that a barn would be. All right, I have to put this down or else I'm gonna make a mess. But I'm gonna do these whole sides because I'm like thinking that the paint lasted over here. I want to go a little bit warmer on this color. So I'm going to add a little bit more yellow. There we go. You might see the difference. So I'm also thinking that, like I said, the sun isn't hitting these sides. So they can be nice and dark. And then the rest of the barn, it's kind of like the paint is holding on by a thread. So I'm just pretty much going to put it at the top, maybe a few random places, and then kind of like pull it a little thinner, but leaving the gray showing. And because I got this color like really rich, it's going to do this very well. Should have a good effect. If it were wishy-washy, it might not have the same impact. I want this weird brush now that has these lines, because I can come in here and pull that.
So this is a barn in Kentucky?
I don't know. We have to ask my dad. I don't know where this barn was.
It's not necessarily recent.
It's not necessarily recent.
Okay.
He's been painting buildings, oh my gosh, since we were just talking about his studio that he had in my first home in Wilmington. It's where he made the Wilmington poster. And yeah, he's been the barns, I guess, are a little more recent. He used to do a lot of urban landscapes. So I'm not sure where this barn is. Ooh, I'm digging it. But yeah, he pretty much did a skyline for every major city. So if you love your city and you look up William Renzulli skyline, there might be a print for you. Now, I've got these doors open, I'm remembering. So I have a little bit of a different composition going on if you have your doors closed. I think I'm going to make this spot just a little bit darker. I don't want it to be standing out like that so much. So I'm going back into my, oh geez, I got it clean. Going back into my gray. I'm just going to put a little bit on here.
Did your dad do skylines in watercolor?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, like he did like Philadelphia skyline, Boathouse Row, like Atlanta,
Cool.
Charleston, all kinds of places. I keep trying to straighten this out, Talbot, and I don't get it, and I don't know why. Which way does it need to go? This side needs to go down.
Yeah, like that.
Okay, it's totally crooked to me, but I want it to look straight.
Right corner up 0.5 centimeter. Yeah.
Okay. All right. I like it. This tree's a little weird and dark. I like the sky. I like the distant trees. I'm not sure about this gold to real purple line right now, but I wish I did more of this while it was wet, but hopefully you guys are watching and then painting and you can spend some time doing that. But lots of fun stuff going on here. Okay, now we're going to do our shadows. Well, let's just touch on the roof because this is still a bit wet and I want the shadows to be nice and crisp. So I'm just going to thin out the gray, which of course on mine keeps turning green. Let's start fresh. Here we go. All right, a little bit of blue, a little bit of raw umber. Actually, that might be all we need. And I'm just gonna simply like lightly paint this roof. And sometimes it's fun to leave. Good grief, what the heck is green? I put some burnt sienna in there. It's fun to leave maybe like a little white edge, like where the sun is really just glimmering off of it. Like, don't be too perfect with it. I'm not going to paint, you know, the corrugation or anything like that. But like, I just took some clean water and put it in there so that it wasn't totally like perfectly even. This guy you hardly even see, but let's just. But like that little bit of white, I'm actually intentionally leaving that. Like, that's where the sun is hitting the edge of the metal. Good brushes are like make your life much easier.
The clouds are coming through so cool.
Yeah, they really did a neat thing. It almost looks like it's about to drop rain the way that they. Okay. We have our purple. I have a lot of it still, so I'm just dipping right back into that. And I'm putting this whole side in shadow so the sun is not shining here. And I'm putting this whole side in shadow because it's on the same plane. In watercolors, like any kind of like purple tint it's a great shadow color. I need to mix just a little bit more. And then we have some cast shadows. I wouldn't really get this side so much if the sun were coming this way, but we would definitely get this side. So just one nice even, whoops, even pass. And then here it does something a little, even a little deeper. And then we're going under this ridge. These boards are overlaying these boards. I want it to be fairly regular, but it could be a little bit irregular because these boards are a little bit messed up and they're not all perfectly even. And then this gets very dark towards the interior here. I kind of made up what was happening in there. I feel like there would be like a little bit of sunlight at the bottom, but without a real reference, I don't exactly know. So basically I just kind of like dropped browns in there. You know, it's an old barn. You don't know what's happening exactly. We're going to have a little shadow over these doors and under these doors. And then we're going to get into details. I want to put a shadow under this ridge line. What time is it?
2:35.
Okay. What am I missing?
I just keep looking back at that painting.
Oh, you forgot to put a big old cow in the foreground.
I know. Oh my gosh. Oh gosh. It's always a little like, it's a little bit of a different process painting, you know, for this versus when I'm sitting by myself. You know, because I can be like lost in thought or listening to music or, you know, so, you know, trying to make it come together well, live is sometimes tricky. I want just a little bit more. Okay, so when this dries, then I can put some dark barn lines in there. I really need to get the inside of the barn, just really dark. I just messed that up. So let me grab my purple, and in one spot, I'm just gonna really make. I have this color called natural tint. It's kind of like Payne's Gray, but it's less opaque. And it's great whenever you want to darken or just really, that's what the word tint means, is to take it darker without adding color. It's really great for that. So I'm going to put it inside the barn here. And it's probably what I'll use to make all the dark lines.
That's the name of the actual color.
Yeah, it's called, and it's great in oils too. I only recently discovered it.
Jan Scott says, one of my painting teachers said to always give hints of something in the deep shadows rather than just use black as a solid shadow.
Yes, I have not used black. Yeah, I don't use black. So even this, it's going to let the colors show through. Just darkening under the roof line, even though there's not going to be a technical cast shadow, it will be darker where it recedes there. Oh, I need one right here. Yeah, I don't even ever have black on my oil painting palette unless I'm using that limited palette that where you're using black as a blue basically. Okay, I really don't love these bright greens, but I'm not sure I want to tackle it. I'm not sure I want to. I'm not sure about that because I've been very close to the painting for a while now, and I need to kind of step away from it. Let's get a nice fine brush and a real dark, whether you want to darken your purple or add natural tint to it, or Payne's Gray, or if you can use black, Viridian Green and Alizarin Crimson make a great black, and we have been using those colors, so that would work. But a very dark is what you want, because it will lighten up too. And then this is where we get to, pretend like there's maybe a window frame here that got boarded up, or some boards are falling apart, or there's a big knot or a hole. But like I said, I'm rendering boards, not metal siding. That's kind of what I'm thinking about.
Jan said that brighter green could be a highlight from the sun. It is brighter on that.
Yeah, it is. It is really bright. Yeah, that's true. I could actually exaggerate it by darkening some shadows, and that's a line of sunlight coming through. That would be a fun thing for me to try to do, attempt to do for you guys to see. So this door is going to be making a shadow on the side of it. I think in my other picture, I imagined that there's often a little hayloft door up here. But I think I'm going to skip it this time.
It's always weird when you're standing outside and a big dark cloud moves over the sun, but only in a certain place.
I love
and you
that.
Can, see
on
the ground. It almost feels like
solar eclipse.
Yeah, it is. It's so
In
cool.
that like patch though, it's weird. It almost feels like what's that movie? Independence Day. You know, like an alien spaceship is flying over and everything's dark all of a sudden. Sometimes I check. I'm like, yeah, it's just a cloud,
Or it's really good camouflage. That looks like a cloud.
right? It's just a weird sensation when you're outside and that happens.
Yeah, how run down your barn is up to you at this point. It's gonna have like more holes in it and I'm not sure if I can even tackle the tree right now. Let's see. Let's play with this. Let me just squint my eyes for a second.
Your field, your hayfield is very, very bright as
It's
well.
very bright.
Compared
Yes.
to what you did.
It's very bright.
I mean,
So
it's very pretty.
yeah. I don't know. Is it the
It's a
kind
brighter
of day? Is it the kind of day where there would be those great big cloud things? I'm gonna use my purple and just tone down some spots and see what happens. I'm gonna take the idea and run with it.
And then also if you do someone with lame.
Well,
And Scott.
one thing that I like to do, an aspect of this work that I really enjoy in the needle felting also is figuring the stuff out and then sharing what worked, not what didn't work. Because trust me, there's a lot of, well, that didn't work going on.
People are like, what are you doing?
I don't know. I'm just putting dark spots in. Or they really need to know what I'm doing?
No, they didn't say
Okay.
that. If I was painting and got this far, I think I'd be like, can't do that.
What I'm doing is looking at it in the video and seeing what it needs, because I can't see it when I look at, like, that's why you need to stand up and walk away. Let's make a big shadow. What's that look like?
Oh, you know, it could be a grain silo off to the side.
Yes. That's what it is. It's not a monster.
Or an alien spaceship on the 4th of July.
Well, I don't know if that added anything to the painting, but
That's cool. Cool effect though.
okay.
Look at it on the screen.
Yeah. I like it. I feel like I might want a little more green. I think I want to make the barn red. I'm just kidding.
I was like, wait, you can do that now?
Oh gosh, you guys, I might be out of juice. Let's just pretend we're gonna paint this tree, but I don't think I can do it all the way to the end. But I'm gonna use that dark that I used, because I'll tell you what, you're gonna paint this on and it's gonna get light and light and light, and it's gonna be like, oh my gosh, I wish it were darker and I didn't have to keep going over this tree. So basically I'm mixing the natural tint, you could use Payne's Gray, and Van Dyke Brown, and that looks like, when you put it on here, it looks like that. We just want it dark. We don't want it, and we don't want it rich brown, because trees aren't really like that. I might even add a little bit of blue to it. I'm definitely not going to add any green to it. I feel like my whole painting is leaning green. Now, you could draw, first. I'm going to go for it. And the fun thing about trees is the branches go thick, and then every time they turn a corner, they get a little bit thinner. And that's all you need to know about painting a branch, and to keep it weird. They do not move the way that you think that they do.
Mary Marin has never seen a green barn, only red.
Oh my goodness, there's barns of all kinds of colors around here. Where does Mary Marin live?
Never seen a purple barn.
No, I haven't seen purple. But, oh my gosh. Ochre, tan, gray, green. Did she say where she lives?
She has not said yet.
I
Well,
mean,
maybe she
like,
did at the very beginning.
I feel like Pennsylvania is, just classic, like, red barns.
Wisconsin.
Oh, interesting. Now, the thing about starting this tree is you gotta finish it. You gotta go lines, 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 or else it'll look elementary compared to what you've done. You know what I mean? Like, if you don't keep going with it, it's gonna look real sparse and weird. I guess it's good to have the tree. It's cool. Another thing that can make a tree look very tree-y is to put random dark shadows on it, as if it's turning a corner, or it's got a cast shadow from another tree branch. Or I wanted to get some little, like, real trees.
Mary saw a yellow barn with a smiley face.
Oh, that's fun. There's the ones with the they put like a design, like the Dutch, is that Dutch?
Oh yeah, like the quilt design or whatever.
Mm-hmm. You got your mail pouch tobacco barns. Lots of bank barns around here. They're fun to paint. Well, this is maybe looking like a little bit spastic to me, this whole painting. But hopefully you guys don't feel that way about yours. I like the big shadow.
Yeah, looks cool. The tree looks good too. For you not feeling the tree.
Well, it'll get there. I need to just you need to keep going.
There's a lot of quilt design barns in Wisconsin.
Oh, really? I think I'm toast.
How did you do the
Painting
little
toast.
leafy things?
I used a sponge, which I didn't love the effect, but what I did was you make a nice saturated color that you like. Maybe it's more red, maybe it's let's see, I'm going to mix red and burnt sienna. And then you get your sponge wet first. Like it's really absorbent. So this is just a natural sponge. You can get all different shapes and size, of loofahs and natural sponges. And then you put it in that color. You kind of it takes a lot of paint. That's the thing. And then I just did like that, but it was too like wimpy looking, too wispy looking to me. I didn't like it, and I didn't like that it took like so much paint.
People are digging the big shadow.
Yeah, I like the big shadow. That was bold. This one's like cooler kind of and more subdued. And in this one, I was like really throwing a lot of color down because I was trying not to have to go back, But there's a lot that I could do. I could mix a foreground color. I could lift some of this off. I could mix a color and go over, a whole area. So like if I was like, oh, this is just way too disjointed. Like, well, here particularly. I could just take a nice soft green and bring it all together and not have it be quite so wacky. But yeah, you can keep layering basically.
So would you just use a small brush for the leaves? Try to make like individual.
I wouldn't. You know me. I wouldn't. It like that's what I was saying even about these branches. If I don't keep going smaller, lighter, you like once you commit, you've got to keep going. I don't feel like there's a convincing way to do a close-up tree without that much detail. Now, getting leaves on a tree would be like us trying to get, the number of leaves onto a
like hair on a head
onto the felted tree. So I would try to find something that you could suggest. You could try wetting a leafy area and dropping color in, but then it's going to be I don't know.
I sort of like the sponge.
Well, that's what I did, and I mean, maybe with a different sponge. I didn't like that one. It was too wispy.
Okay.
Yeah. Any other questions? It's fun, and there's so many cool barn pictures. You can make them small and have the sky be fabulous. You can make them high and have a big elaborate field in front. You know, there's so many. It's very easy to take the composition and totally like tweak the proportions so that you can have fun painting whichever aspect of it is that you're excited to paint. Which is probably why a lot of my people I know paint barns like all the time, because it is just, it's very satisfying. I've painted many barns. I should try to find somewhere I have a picture of like a big watercolor that was really elaborate of a barn.
Very cool.
Yeah. Anything, questions or anything that is like, people are like, oh my gosh, I need to see that before we go. Okay.
Would you do anything to the field that adds any sort of definition, like rows or?
Not this one. In this one, I put some less intense colors, so it isn't quite as yellow. But I kind of like that it's like this.
Well, that looks like sun's popping off of it too.
Yeah, it's kind of like
Glowy.
this golden field back there. Kind of like it.
Oh yeah, the barn looks really 3D. Like
Awesome.
It pops out.
Awesome. If I do anything to it in the near future, I will be sure to post a picture and stuff. But yeah, I like this composition. Well, I like it is. It just kind of, it leads you right in. And I'm digging the sky. I'm looking at my picture. That's why I'm looking over here. So. All right.
Cool.
Well, thank you all so much for checking out the video. And if you think you want to do some other paintings and you haven't been in the group is called The Paint Puddle with Sara Renzulli, and we can share our images. We can ask questions. We have done some sharing of reference photos, and that's where I'll post, upcoming paint-alongs. And our website is Serafina Fiber Art, and we have a goods and faves page on the website where you can find a lot of the supplies that I use. I am trying to, this is just an aside, carry these pencils, which I am in love with. So stay tuned for that. But the goods and faves page has links to some of the painting supplies that I've been using. Yeah, I think that's it.
Jan says, have you tried to paint with a water and color brush, one in each hand? What's a WATHER?
Maybe a brand?
I don't know.
Or just type out for water?
I don't know.
Say it again, Jan. Type it again.
Maybe it's that water brush.
Oh, the water brush? I have used those. I don't have as much control over how much water comes out as if I dip my brush in water and dab it on a paper towel, I know exactly how much water is in it. But they are fun, if that's what she's talking about. But I'm not sure about the one in each hand thing. And there are so many like cool painting things out there that I don't have. Like we're talking about the leaves. I am sure Dick Blick has some kind of like brush that is
right, can mimic that.
Yes, exactly. Like maybe it's made out of like little turned over pieces of foam or something that when you go bop bop bop, it makes leaves. It's out there. It's definitely out there. So
Her computer's freezing.
Oh no. She's like, they're getting ready to leave and I'm trying to convey my thought. Yeah. So much fun to be had.
A fan brush.
A fan brush. Yeah, fan brushes. It's kind of like that one that I have that's thinned out. It's good like that. And then this one's cool. It goes to it's flat, but then it goes to a tip. So you can get a nice wide line, but then if you turn it, you can get a nice thin line. So
cool.
Yeah. Thank you, everybody. See you next time, I hope. Can't wait to see your barns.